Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to our SIG Open Forum. And in this forum, we're gonna do, our agenda is as follows. We're gonna talk about, questions related to your experience in remote learning during COVID-19. And we're gonna also talk about our teleconference. Today we have Christian Perticoni and Christopher Nazaro, our co-chairs. Okay. Would you like to say anything, guys?
Just, welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm a teacher as well as program director at ASA College for their intensive English programs and also business English and TOEFL programs.
Christopher? You're muted.
Hi. Do you want me to introduce myself with like a resume?
No.
I work for the New School Outreach Program and also part-time in the IEP program at the New School. And for New York Public Library, whenever that comes back online, we're currently furloughed until the end of this pandemic, who knows?
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to another semester of online teaching.
Okay, thank you. I didn't introduce myself. So I'm Amani Al-Khayat, and I'm the SIG chair. I'm also a doctoral student at Columbia University, Instructional Technology and Design. I'm also an entrepreneur in EdTech. And I welcome you today, and I look forward to your feedback and to your reflections on your experiences during remote teaching and learning. So the purpose of this public forum today is that we need to reflect on our experiences in remote teaching, and because we're going to like schools are going to start I think September 9th. Is it September 9th or when? And so we need to ask questions, and if you have other questions that you are thinking of and you need to bring forward, please don't hesitate. So what were the challenges during COVID-19 that you have encountered, and what didn't work? Maybe tech tools that you thought that were awesome but didn't work, didn't do the purpose of engaging students while being on remote teaching or learning. Maybe some teaching methods didn't work, some teaching techniques. So what worked, what didn't, and what do you need to do next? What type of technologies are you looking forward to explore to engage your students in remote or hybrid classroom? So maybe, I don't know, maybe you can just, I can give you like few minutes to reflect on these questions, and if you would like to sort of discuss your experiences in light of these questions, you can just if you can find raise a hand, or you can just go ahead and say, well, I'd like to share my experience, and we're all ears. So I'm gonna give you some time to reflect, like 2 minutes, and if you would like to reflect on your experiences, what tools that worked well, what tools that you are more interested in to explore and know more about, that would be awesome. Okay. Okay, I can see some who want to like share their experiences, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Fiona. Yeah.
Okay. I'll start. I'm an elementary teacher, and so in teaching L's in grades 3, 4, and 5. It's a small school, a small program. One of the challenges I had, so I tried to coordinate with the teacher and modify materials that the classroom teacher was giving the students. and then meeting by Zoom separately with them to try to go through the assignments and work on those assignments with the kids. I enjoyed doing that. One challenge I had was there wasn't a lot of follow-up after my Zoom sessions with the kids, so they didn't get a lot of the work submitted that they needed to get submitted. Now going into September, it'll be a whole different scenario because we're going into a hybrid model. So we'll just see, try to make a mental adjustment to that, what's going to happen. I have no idea. We'll just see. But the challenge was a follow-up from the kids, and maybe a solution would have been more meetings with them, more joint work. I don't know. So that was my experience.
Yeah. So the whole school is gonna go through like hybrid classroom,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Despite the fact that many parents have opted for 100% online, so.
Well, the parents who would like to do all remote,
Yeah.
can choose that.
Okay.
They're able to choose that in our school district, and then they're able to, they're dividing the school year into 3 parts. So if they choose all remote for the entry semester, they can opt in, a third of the way through the school year.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how our district is handling it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And there's a handful of kids at each grade level. So our school is 3, 4, and 5. So there's about, I don't know, as of today, maybe 10, 12 students at each grade level who are opting all remote to start the year.
I was thinking of Padlet when you said that there were no follow-up with the kids. I think Christian can talk about that. Could that be a solution?
Yeah, I mean, are you familiar with Padlet at all, Fiona?
I've seen it. I haven't, used it on my own.
Yeah,
I've seen it and
it's it's super intuitive. I think it's very easy to pick up, and it's like it's a web page essentially with components, like pieces that you can put in and take out, and that it's a space where people can collaborate very easily. So I use it with my students in class. I'll sort of set up an agenda, a list of activities that we're going to do, and then there's spaces in there for the students to contribute, and they have access to it, until the next class. What's special about it is it's very easy to make one of these for each class you teach. So you can have a lot of moving parts, and it can post a lot of things just for one class. So I don't know, even we could screen share. I could show you about it if you're curious, or if other people want to know too.
Yeah, sure. I'll make you a co-host. Yeah, you can screen share now. Oh yeah, I have to stop sharing.
Okay, yeah, I'll just pull this up. There we go. Okay. Good one to share. So this would be this is just an example Padlet board. I'll make a new one for every class. So I'll have the topic. This is for a business English class, advanced level. And you know, I have it, it's just the easy linear organization. So you can have, I just have 1, 2, 3, 4 going across the screen. And, you know, I'll start off with the objectives here and then different activities that we're using. I can have, you know, I can put in audio or video files. I can link to websites on the internet, and I can also link to other Padlets. So I use this one to give direction to the class, and I teach from it. So I might say, do something like this, like we would talk about in this class. We were talking about how to write up meeting minutes. So I can blow this up, and then we can talk about that, and then I can send them off to another Padlet that I made, where I have the students' names up here, and then they can post their own responses. And you can post with your phone. You can take pictures of, as you can see, this student took a picture, something they wrote by hand and posted it, or they can post in here at the same time. It has an app, so you can use it. It's as easy to use on a phone as it is to use on a computer. You could have both open at the same time. I put some notes in here for them to help them with their answers so that they can move back and forth in here. And all the students can collaborate and type on this at the same time, as can I, in real time. So as they're making something, I can see it and help them edit it.
Oh, that's great.
When you use it on the phone as well, there's a touchpad function, so you can draw. It's super multimedia. You can add video. They can add video. You can add audio. They could add audio. You can provide audio feedback. Like I said, you can use the phone to draw. So if you want to do pictures or something like that, and you can just keep on linking out to different spaces as you need more spaces. So
that's great. Each student in our school will have a Chromebook. So we're going to be a one-to-one. Does this work well on the Chromebook?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do fully everything on the Chromebook with it.
But, sorry, but like as much as I like Padlet, it's fine. I wanted to ask Fiona, what learning management systems do you actually use? And it sounds like you have Chromebook and it looks like Google Classroom, right?
Yes, we have Google Classroom.
So it's nice that Padlet partners with Google it integrates well into the Google things, but you don't need most of what you see Christian doing on Padlet if you have Google Classroom, because Google Classroom has like integrated assignments, it has like collaborative documents, it has ways of tracking assignments. Like when you have like a real learning management system, Padlet is an interesting like thing for certain types of collaborations or perhaps individual student projects. But you know, when you have something like Google Classroom, I don't see how like just one app is really gonna help all that much. It's a nice little patch for certain things, but I don't think it really, like the functionality of Google Classroom and the Chromebooks that all the students have is so much greater. Like you're gonna have Google Forms, you're gonna have, you know, Google Expeditions, you have Jamboards, you have like 1,000,007 other things inside of your toolkit. But, you know, Padlet can be interesting. The other big problem with Padlet is also it costs money.
Oh, okay.
Right, they give you 3 free Padlets, but then after that you have to spend them on, which is kind of, I mean, you know, fine, you can make your free Padlets. You got
$10 a month, I think.
Well, yeah, it's like 10. But if your school district has Google Classroom, Padlet is not really solving any problems for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I mean, you know, it's a nice patch, but it's not perfect.
I'd like to add, as a user of Padlet and Google Classroom, that it's also easier to navigate through Google Classroom depending on the grade level of the students. If you're, especially for 4th graders, I think Google Classroom is much easier.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, Google Classroom also has all of your students, like they all have accounts, and like, you know, they're engaged in a particular way online. with the technology. Also, like the way you interact with like Google Meet, Gmail, like all those things are kind of really thoroughly integrated. One thing that I add like to all my classes, which is not necessary when you have Google Classroom, but which is kind of helpful, especially when you're talking about reaching out to parents or people who are outside of the classroom, is to use a Google site. And those integrate pretty well. I mean, Padlet could fulfill that function. Like you could have a Padlet for parents, but I think a better thing for parents would be a Google site. And Google offers a template for reaching out to parents. Like there's a template that's like, here's a calendar for the class and like things like that. Like they have the things in place for things that you might want to show to parents or people who are outside of the Google Classroom environment. And then the other thing I like to use Google Sites for is to have students make the websites as projects. Like it really works out well in project-based learning to have students make a website about a book or an issue. Like I had all my students at the new school do things on environmental topics. So I had a group that did like environmental alternatives, alternative energies, environmental realities, like historical problems like Chernobyl and other accidents that have occurred in the environment. And so each group had like a theme, and since they could edit the website together and include all of the pieces that come with Google, like Google Docs, Google Slides, Google, everything like goes onto the site, they can use that in one place to make projects. And I find that, so Google Sites is good for both like outward facing, like to parents who are outside the class, and inside the class, having to make a website that's easy to control.
Okay, thank you.
There's also another website that's also integrated in Google Classroom. It's called the Class Dojo. And it's really an interesting tool, especially with elementary school students. I used to use it with college students because it was cool. Like every student, they choose their own avatar, and usually it's a monster. And you give them feedback, positive or negative feedback. They can also share their work, either photos or videos or whatever they want. You can also send the parents the codes so that they can see their kids' work, and you can also follow up with them. So the students get their own code to access Class Dojo, to access this particular classroom that you created, and also the parents, they also receive their own code. And I believe that it is integrated because I searched now, and it is integrated on Google Classroom. So it's really a wonderful tool, and you can also take attendance, and the students can create their own portfolios. So it's really cool. I used to use it with college students, and then I discovered that it's for kids, but my students liked it. So it's a really interesting tool. It's called Class Dojo.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So any other reflections? Anyone would like to reflect on their teaching experience?
Okay, I'll talk a little bit. I'm in a very different situation. I'm a retired teacher, and before the COVID thing happened, I was volunteering once a week with, I teach adults, and I was volunteering with a Venezuelan group, very educated people, but people who needed to improve their speaking ability, and we did a lot of communication. So as soon as we stopped the in-person class, we started the online class. And I had to start learning all these things. I didn't know Google Classroom, I didn't know Padlet. And I went to your webinars and other webinars, and I started to use Padlet and Google Classroom and Flipgrid and some other stuff. And it was working out. And then they, this group called the Andrew Romay New Immigrant Center on 39th Street asked me if I'd like to do online teaching. So, and this is a very high level adult class. And so I'm teaching conversation, oral communication, and contextual grammar. And if you want to know what problem I had, was I had the wrong computer. My computer wasn't strong enough, it didn't have enough memory, and I kept getting kicked off of my Zoom sessions, and I had to go from Chromebook to from laptop to Chromebook to phone back to laptop. And I finally bought myself a new computer, and I got a better connection. So after all these months, I think I'm getting the hang of it, and I appreciate all that you're doing. And I'm kind of interested in the sites. My organization, I have an organization, an ABE conference, and we started doing Google Sites with them. But I was very interested in what Christian was saying, how he had students work together, because my students are high level, and I think it would be great if they could collaborate on projects together. That's about it.
Yeah, and how did you find engaging students while teaching remotely? Like, was it challenging?
Yes. Well, I had, in the beginning in my ARNA class, I had 20 or 22 students, and it dwindled down to about 14. And of those students, maybe 10, 11, 12 were participating, and the others weren't so much participating. I did the breakout sessions, so I got to see what they were doing more, but I really, I wanted more. And I had a problem that these students were high professionals, lawyers, engineers, all kinds of professionals. And as the administration said, this is not an ESL class. They don't consider it ESL. It's English, and they are getting to acclimate to American society and learn, and then everything is departmentalized. Anyway, so I found that, especially in my grammar class, I started with tenses, and the guy said, oh, I know all this already. So the advanced students dropped out, sort of, but the ones who stayed were very engaged. But the other thing I found out that was in my Google Classroom assignments, about a quarters of the students did the assignments. And I was a little disappointed in that. And sometimes they didn't know how to turn in their work right, and I couldn't find their work, and then I found their work. But the best thing that we did was they did a project about either themselves or their country, and they did a slideshow, and then they spoke about themselves. And then I had the other students ask them questions and have them elaborate. And that was really good. And then I carried that over to my Venezuelan class, even though they were lower level, and they really enjoyed that. And I did some Padlet stuff, but as you say, you only have 3, and I have to like close my old Padlets to get a new one, and I didn't feel like paying that money for the Padlet. And I also used Quizlet, and I was having a little bit of trouble getting them to do work or letting me see what they're doing on Quizlet. So, but I'm learning all these little things, and I think it's working.
That's interesting. And it's interesting to know that culturally relevant pedagogy always work. Like it engages students in the classroom, and especially when they talk about their culture and they engage with other students. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Tila.
I did something else that it's not tech so much, but I want to tell you that I now belong to the Global Play Brigade, you know, Judy Wong group. So I learned a lot of things from them because I've been also studying acting and playwriting. And then I found when I had my students without a slide share, just look at each other and interact with each other, ask each other questions or respond to each other. It really worked out great. I don't know if that's really considered techie.
Oh, well, as long as the interaction is via the internet, and we're trying, you know, to make people kind of interact like the face-to-face classroom, I think that also, yeah, techie. And, you know, this has to do with the perception and presence during you know, tech interaction. And I also did something like that, like when you do like crime scene investigation activity with students, and then they ask questions like using past tense. So that was really awesome in the classroom, and they really found themselves like the real actors, where they really feel that that one of the students, they would feel like they are the policeman, and other feel like they're the suspects. And they
So
try
they
to
ask
find
very good questions.
yeah, really good questions.
Instruction but meaningful.
Yeah, even their facial expressions, like they're trying to investigate and they are very serious. And even when I give them like 10 minutes to perform or to do the role play, they need more time because they have more questions. And I find it really, really interesting. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Fiona and Taylor. So other reflections?
I'd like to share, mine was all about technology. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, sure, of course.
I work at the North Rockland Central School District, which is in Rockland. I live in Hartsdale. The first thing that happened it's a rude awakening for the district, was that I'm a bilingual teacher. So I teach students that have come to the country, maybe just arrived or 2 to 3 years here. And I contacted each and every single student of mine the day after we were told to come home. And out of the 19 students that I have, I was only able to reach 7 out of 19, 2 of my students. 17 students were not reachable. And that was due to people and parents changing numbers, etc. So they constantly were, lack of information and communication with the school district as to how to reach these people. So I ended up reaching them one by one. However, I had informed this to my district and my school the night of when I had this information. And I warned them that if I had this issue, I'm very concerned about the district. It so happened that 3 weeks later, when they were trying to reach everybody, there was a huge percentage, I would say about 45% of the students that people were not being able to contact parents because of the lack of updated data that the district had on the parents and the students. So that was, caught with my pants down, number one. And then once I finally was able to create my own phone list with my own parents. Even though the district was communicating with them, all the emails were incorrect, phone numbers they had were incorrect. They had no idea what was going on with the school system. I created my own group chat with all my parents and communicated anything that was coming through the district to them, to them. Parents really didn't understand how to go online. Kids didn't know how to go online. We ended up giving students a Chromebook, and we created hotspots where there was need for internet. I work with students that live below poverty level and low socioeconomic. So some kids never turned on to go online. So my biggest concern was, how do we make sure that every kid does log on? Like, I want to make sure that if we're supposed to be going back to school September 14th for the kids, ELIT, bilingual students are going back 100%. Mainstream are going back 50%. AB days, my kids are going back 100% every day. It's 2 separate classes. And I know that the first thing I'm going to do is say hello to my new students, give them a Chromebook, and teach them how to go online, how to open Chrome, how to go to Google Classroom, how to log on, how to do anything and everything we can, because I sense that we're going to be sent home within a week or so, and do remote the remote schooling, so that we don't get caught with our pants down like we did in March. It's the following through, making sure that they log on, and that's what I'm scared of, because out of my 19 students, I was able to literally schedule permanently 6 out of 19. That's not a very big number, but at least I got 6 on.
Yeah, that's
Such
great.
important work you're doing. I mean, and just so challenging.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's just one class,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear your dedication and how you. So, what kind of app did you use in order to make those group chat?
Well, by law, legally, we are tied to Google Classroom, Google Meets, because we can't go outside of that for legal issues and privacy issues. And through that, and of course, I use everything like from Quizlet to BrainPop to, I can't use Zoom, but Screencastify I can use. We use, there's so many apps that I can use in order to do the content, because I teach everything and I have to do everything in Spanish and English. So, and make it fun as well. I did a lot of, I did include art, and we did drawings and pictures, and we were supposed to share these things, and we had contests. I even put together a fashion talent show because I'm for the district, for my school. Yeah, it was challenging, but knowing that we went through that, I'm trying to prepare, like I said to my administrators, we need to prepare the kids in September for if and when we go remote, because it seems that, as the news is showing, most of the schools that are opening need to go remote.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that I'm afraid. It's a reality, and it's going to happen. And teachers, even myself, I'm exposing myself to double the amount of the students that most teachers are exposing themselves to, because just the nature of what I teach. So, let's do a reality check. How long are we going to be in school before we go home? Let's take this time and train our kids and do exactly what we need to do and get to know. Yes, it's important to build relationships, but it's also important to really build the technology that they need in order to go home and continue the instruction.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you attribute the way that students don't know how to use a computer, and maybe they are more familiar with mobile phones? Like, is it the case that they are more familiar with mobile phones than with laptops? That's why they need more preparation, because this is what I experienced while I was teaching in the past. Applied linguistics students, that they were scared of using laptops because they are more familiar with mobile phones. And I was really wondering, like, okay, so can those companies like Google, or can make Google Classroom mobile friendly, for example, like students can access this, and they can also save us time and effort in doing all these, teachers doing all these workshops and stuff in preparing students, since students are more they use mobile apps more than using laptops. So I was wondering about that catering for students' needs in terms of the way that they use technology. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. It was really a great story about your challenge. So I'm interested to know, about the challenges that you've had. I know that there were, you did a great job. Everybody did a great job. Teachers, teaching remotely, and it was all of a sudden that this happened. So I'm interested to know from other participants. Anyone interested?
There's a question here about using Screencastify. I don't know if anybody'd like to speak to that.
Screencastify.
I know what Screencastify is. I've never used it, but it's just a way to record your screen and then use it again. I find it to be like Google. I went to a lot of Google trainings because I'm a certified educator, and then I was on the way to being a trainer before the pandemic, and now I don't know what I want to do. But regardless, they were really promoting Screencastify as a way to record yourself and record your screen. But if you have a Mac, it's really easy to record your screen using the commands on the Mac. If you have the Windows machine, I think they have different built-in things. I'm not exactly sure what those are, but
there is the Screencast-O-Matic. This is what I know, and it's also cheap, $15 a year. You can also use it for free, but it will have the watermark on it. So
yeah, but you don't need to do any of that if you have most people I feel like a lot of people in education have Macs anyway, and then if you on a Windows machine as well, it's easy to record the screen like inside the computer. You don't need like a web-based tool for that. So I think a lot of people get interested in Screencastify, and it's like, wait, first see what you have on your computer for free, see what you have that you can do yourself. And then if you don't have those things, like I guess if you're using a Chromebook and you have to use the internet to record your screen, then Screencastify is an option. And it's just an option for recording your own screen and your own presentation.
Okay, can I say something about Screencastify?
Who's going?
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't have a Mac computer, unfortunately, and I'm thinking about buying a Mac based on what I see from other teachers, and you can use the computer from Mac, so you're using the money you pay for the MacBook and you don't need anything extra. So right now I use Screencastify because I don't have a Mac computer, and what I like about it is that I can record the videos and it gives me the link. I can add that link to my Google Classroom. I can send through my email.
We're really losing you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
And I share you.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, Deborah, you said you want to.
Yes, I'm an elementary for the DOE teacher, K to 5, and so we use Google Classroom and I'm not so tech savvy, and Screencastify was great for me. Like for read alouds, what's really fun about it is the connection to the Google Classroom. Even for the summer, I ended up sending them like something as basic as songs. I sang a song about July, June, July, and August. Read it like a shared reading. Read it out loud. They read along. I sang it, and there I'm in the corner. What's nice too is that you have your image in the corner. The students can see you when you share the link. That they can see you. It's as if you're there with them, singing the song, reading and singing along, and then they can join you, and then they can go back to it as many times to practice.
And that's the same thing what I like about Screencastify. It's like if you're teaching the lesson with even material, you can scroll, you can teach with documents on the page, on the screen. With you can downsize your portion of yourself so that you're like in the bottom screen, and you can present material. And it's like if you're teaching the class to the kids, but it's not live, it's recorded. And as you say, that you can give the link as well as they can repeat it as many times, so they can learn it a few times instead of you having to repeat it many times. That's what I like. That's the one factor that I do like about it.
Right. You don't really necessarily have to add your camera. You can also record just with your audio. That's another feature that I use, so I don't want to distract with my face. Sometimes I add my face right in the beginning of the video, and then I don't have my face to the end of the video. Then I come back with my face just to say, if you have any questions, my email and things like that. So you can really decide how you want to use it.
Mm-hmm. You can do it. You can delete it, and then it saves. It saves right to the Google Classroom. You can go back to it.
Right. Anytime. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. Okay. So we still have more people, and we're interested to know about your experiences. So anybody would like to share?
Well, people were talking about the communication of how, trying to get in touch with them. Basically, the way I handle that, I don't know, nobody wants to hear this, but it's basically a 27-hour day.
Well,
the 6 different grade levels students. When I worked with them 7:30 at night, 8:30 at night, that's when the parents came home. Sometimes the video worked, sometimes it didn't work. Someone else mentioned about not being out, not getting the assignments. I was doing assignments with them on the weekend. It's to me, it's like I look at, it's hard to say this because I shouldn't be this way. I commend the people who can stop work, make work separate. But it was all weekend, every night, every weekend. They did their assignments because I did it with them. I was working with them, you know, Sunday morning, you know, like whenever. It's just like, it's a horrible situation, you know, but
I think,
how, you know, it's like, this is how, it's just being available.
it's hard to draw boundaries. There's no question. It's
Very
really
hard.
when we're in this situation, we're expected to work all the time. You know, I mean,
Especially with, you know, getting calls from Brazil, 12:30 at night, you know, the time change, you know, like, oh, sure, you know, yeah, I'll work with you now.
Yeah, time change is a huge disaster, especially in the adult world, because so many of the students in adult ed can be abroad and be taking your class at the same time, whereas that was not the case, you know, 6 to 12 months ago.
Exactly. This was even happening with the elementary, you know, for the people who escaped right away. Sometimes it was.
And if I can just jump in the discussion, there's also, when we were in person, the students expected to see you and ask you questions in the class. They would maybe send you an email. Now with the online remote learning, they want you to answer their questions any time of the day. I teach adults, and I also train the teachers from my school using the new technology now. And I get messages either from students and from teachers any time of the day. Does any of you have the same?
Yeah, well, that's what it is. That's basically what it was. It's just this expectation. I mean, I don't know if it's, you know, I don't, you know, what we have coming now. I just came from a meeting about strikes. You know, there's so many different levels of what's going on now. So it's like,
it's like all over the place.
We all care, you know, we all want to do what's best. It's like the way of life. It's just the teachers are running, the teachers there's no leadership. So it's just basically, if you do what you have to do, you know.
Right.
But it's it's challenging trying to make like you talk about those boundaries, you know.
Right. I try to put boundaries, especially with my adult students, and tell them, please do not text me on Sundays. Just give me Sunday. Just give me Sunday off.
I mean, there's I think what's needed is a kind of technology of keeping some sort of hours, some technology of like turning off the availability at a certain time. And it's weird that people need to kind of manage their own, like, you know, putting your phone on complete silent, putting away messages on your email and saying, look, I'll get back to you on Monday, but I'm not going to do anything until this, like, you know, those technologies also exist. And I think, like, you know, especially when we think about this here, like the technologies of blocking, turning off your phone, silencing, you know, establishing hours and things like that. Those things can be done on an individual level of you being like, no, I set my own boundaries and I just don't answer, you know, my email goes off at this time, or I'm you know, even the concept of signing out of email is a ridiculous concept nowadays. Although, you know, if you go to France or other countries where they have laws about how many hours you can work in a week, you know, it's a different
It's true.
story.
I think I'm going to use your idea. I like your idea of you just send that message in your email. I like that. I did not think about it.
You could schedule away messages and just have them say, hey, look, I'll get back to you on Monday about this. And, you know, and that's the other nice thing about, I mean, you know, Gmail is one of the things, but all sorts of email things have these schedule send features where, like, even if you send an email, if you have an email idea at 2 a.m. and you want to have it sent out at 8 o'clock the next morning, better to send it out at 8 o'clock the next morning automatically than send it out at 2 a.m. when you had the idea, just so that you yourself are keeping the borders and the boundaries.
Right, just as you do with Google Classroom.
Yeah.
You can reschedule the assignments. Yes, that's a great idea. I am going to use that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you want to talk about the conference?
I just, yeah. So the last thing that we're going to talk about today is talking about the conference. And this is going to be held in spring 2021. We haven't set a date yet, but the theme of our conference is going to be about tech trends, strategies, and best practices for students and school success. and re-imaging, remote learning, and or hybrid learning. And the strands would be, in general, they were going to be CMC. So CMC, computer-mediated communication, that has to do with anything that communication between people, and the computer is the medium. So it could be emails, text messages, things like WhatsApp, Zoom, anything that is a medium and connects people. Also gaming, in second language learning, intelligent computer assisted language learning, language teaching and learning technologies. And by doing so, we're gonna actually hold a hackathon in which web developers and also designers and TESOL educators, they're going to discuss certain challenges, and whether these challenges were not met yet by technology, and how in this competition, it's going to be a design competition, how designers and web developers can come up with something that would meet teachers and learners' needs. Also, theories of second language acquisition, teacher education and technology, immersive technologies, VR, AR, and MR. And we may invite some people who actually teach on some VR platforms to show us their experiences, as there is actually one of the famous schools now in, I guess, I don't remember which state now. It's a VR school for high school students, and it's really one of the big companies. So we're going to invite those who are responsible for these schools to talk about their experiences. And we're also going to talk about equity and technology. And we'd like to hear from you if you think that we should add more tracks, or maybe what would you be interested to see in this conference?
Amani, now that we just talked about it, I am really thinking that we should have something on unplugging or distancing yourself from the learning.
Yeah. I think this could be an open forum discussion. How do you do that, and what are the best practices?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, there was also a session today on it's a conference it's called SIGGRAPH conference, and they were talking about working mothers and how they were able to cope with COVID-19, their kids and stuff like that. So that was really an interesting idea. And so what do you think? Do you have any ideas?
I think that's that's a genuinely good idea for sure, to add something about how to unplug. I think people, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we could do it as one of the strands, or forum discussion, or whatever. We can discuss this later. Yeah. So so any ideas you would like to share before we wrap up? So I'm so excited to have you today, and we've listened to great stories. I like the ideas about distancing yourself from messages and and phone calls, because I've had phone calls as well and messages from my students on my day off, and also challenges that you've had reaching out to students. It's the first time I hear about Screencastify. I always use Camtasia Studio, or because I don't teach in in public schools or in schools. I teach adult students, and I'm a Udemy instructor, so I either use Camtasia or Screencast-O-Matic. It's been really interesting to hear those stories, and I look forward for your participation either as presenters or as attendees in our upcoming webinars. We have Christopher. Christopher, you have an upcoming webinar, right?
Do I know? I just finished.
You just finished.
I had 3
Oh,
work
okay.
on building websites, and I finished. I mean, I could do it again because it was really good that we only had like, I think like the first day we had maybe 10 or 15, and then the second day it was like about 10. And the last day there were only 5 or 6 people. So we were really able to like have teachers build the website, and like I could talk to them about it, you know, see what their problems were, actually do stuff. So,
Your trainings are great. I just want to say your trainings about Google Sites are great. I couldn't be there in the last one, but I have been to other ones and they are wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so
I'll be happy to do more of those over the fall. At some point, we should do that again. No question.
yeah, of course, yeah. And I'd love to attend. Yeah, and yeah. So we're gonna have like two upcoming webinars about digital storytelling. One with Powtoon, and the other one is gonna be on Toontastic. And in September, we're gonna have also more webinars. One of them is about perusal. Have you ever heard of perusal? And it's going to be presented by one of the doctoral students at Columbia University, TESOL AL doctoral degree. So she's going to talk about engaging students in with perusal. It's a reading app. It's really interesting. You know, I've done it as a student, not as a teacher, but it's really interesting app to engage students in which they have a conversation with each other on this app. So we're looking forward for more, for you to attend our webinars. And by doing this public forum today, we've had also more understanding of your needs in terms of what kind of apps that you are looking for, and also what kind of strands that we should pay more attention to in our conference. So any other, you know, reflections or questions or ideas?
I put a question in there for Christopher. Do you have a recording of the sessions that you gave, or should we just sign up for another one that you're going to give for sure?
No, that's a great question. So I will put in the, hold on, I'm talking to Amani privately, and now here we are, tinyurl.com/tech10 with the number GS. That's tinyurl.com, tech10GS. It's in the chat. That is a resource site that I've used. Earlier in the summer, I gave 4 or 5, I can't recall, webinars on making a Google site. So like starting the site, like integrating Google Suite, making hidden pages. And so all of that is organized on the site. You can watch the videos, you can see all the basics. And then the workshops that I've done, I've tried to step away from having it be a webinar. I don't want to like talk to people and tell them what to do. Instead, I give people like a basic tip or pointer, and then I put them into breakout rooms, and then I have them do it themselves. And then I come into the breakout rooms and I check, and did you get this? Did you get that? And we go over it, you know, through the actual kind of project-based, like everybody's making the site themselves. So, you know, what I've had over this past week, without any site at all, just zero, nothing. And then I was like, all right, here's how we start the site. Here's how we put a basic URL shortener. Here's how we get it connected. And then over the course of the 3 days, we just all added things, and like, you know, and then it was amazing to see what, you know, it's always the case. Like I have students do this all the time, but it's amazing to see what people do once they get started, once they see what they're doing, and they start to kind of work on the workshop. So yeah, keep your eyes out for something again like that over the next.
If you have a site, could you incorporate or import?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, I was the way I structured it was like day 1 was basics, and if you didn't need the basic stuff, I said, you know, come to day 2 or day 3, and then if you wanted to bring your own site, nobody did. Everybody started a site fresh this time around. But you know, if someone has a site and wants to work on it, I think it's a great space where you can, you know, see what other people do, what other people use, how other people integrate things, especially when we have all of these like so many apps and so many tools and so many things that are happening. it's nice to have a central place to put them and then people to talk to about like how they use them and see how they actually get implemented. So that's why I think a workshop is much better than a webinar. And I've done the webinars, so everyone can look at those webinars and look at them again if they want to. And also the one thing I will say, especially about Google and the whole Google environment, is Google has a huge set of training resources. Like just go to Teacher Trainer Center for Google, and for every single product, docs, slides, sheets, sites, everything, there's like a full set of training modules that's completely free.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that's it. So any more questions before we go? Any other questions before we go? Okay. Yeah, Fiona? Do you have a... Oh, you're muted. Fiona, you're muted.
Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh.
I enjoyed everything.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'll be back.
It was great to have you today and listen to your stories, and it was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye. Recording.